His greed was more important to him than the life of Lou Harris. That's what the evidence has shown over these past few days. The judge read the charge to you, and all of it goes towards what is alleged in the indictment, that the defendant took the life of Lou Harris during the course of robbery and or burglary. You're not going to read that court's charge and see the name Mary Bartell or Mary Sue Brooks. But the law allows us to put on that evidence, and it was important for you to hear what happened to those two women. Why was it important? It's important because it shows that this isn't just a coincidence. If you just had the Lou Harris case, you might be tempted to say, well, maybe he just had her stuff, and that she died or someone killed her, and that he just happened to have her property with him. But because you have the cases of Mary Bartell and Mary Sue Brooks to go along with it, you know now that when they were shopping in that Walmart, when they were running their errands, he was in his hunting grounds. You know now, because you've heard of all three women in their situations, that he picks out women he thinks are too weak to resist. You know now that to him, the women who are matriarchs, who are grandmothers, who are focal points of a family, to him are just walking dollar signs. And that the jewelry that they wear that represents love and life and memories, to him is just a way to get some quick cash. So think about when you're deliberating, how in the world is this a coincidence? When you have three different women who don't know each other, who don't know him, that Miss Bartell ends up attacked, left for dead, but thank God she lived. Miss Brooks killed in her home, and Miss Harris killed in her home. And the only really common factor among all three is that every time they're at Walmart, he's there, and that he's outside their house, and that their property ends up sold or about to be sold. It's interesting when the judge reads the court charge and she says, you're allowed to take in any facts and circumstances regarding the relationships of the parties. And we know there's no relationship pre-existing between any of them. But think about his statement to Detective Tabor. Remember we watched that hour-and-a-half video of him talking to Detective Tabor? Think about this. When Detective Tabor says, Billy Chemirmir, you are charged with murder. Did he even ask who died? Did he even want to know the name of the person who died so that he could say, wait, is it my neighbor? Is it someone I've come into contact with? He just says, no, I've never been anywhere. Never been at Preston Place. Never been near Lou Harris's home on Warm Breeze. He didn't even think to ask who had died. Wouldn't that be normal? To say, wait, you're charging me with murder of who? That's what a sociopath is, who is so easily able to separate what he's done from himself that never even comes into his mind. You have the opportunity now to tell him through your guilty verdict that we don't buy your act. We know that this quote-unquote Mexican guy in a white truck doesn't exist. We know that you were in a Walmart with Lou Harris, just like you were at the Walmart when Mary Brooks was there, just like you were outside the home of Mary Bartell. We know you were at Lou Harris's house because your phone records show it. We know that you were at her house because you ended up with her keys and that the house was locked up when the police show up. Remember, when the police got there, they couldn't get into the house. There was no opportunity for anyone to come back and say, well, the door was just swinging wide open, so maybe someone killed her, left the door open, and he came by later and got the property. That house was locked up so much that they had to go find someone to get in. Remember in jury selection, we talked about who controls the evidence. And remember that one of those prospective jurors said the person who did it controls the crime scene. He had controlled it to the point where if that attack on Mary Bartell had not happened, who knows when they would have found Miss Harris. It was only because she was attacked that they said, hey, we need to go figure out who's doing this. And that they worked their way backwards from that name tag, remember? William Bill Harris, back to the home of Lou Harris. You can tell them by your verdict that we know that just like with Mary Brooks and Mary Bartell, if the police had not caught him discarding this jewelry and throwing stuff out at the dumpster, he would have been right back at Dallas and Gold Exchange just like he was in their two cases. Seemed like a lot of money, right, over time, $91,000 in transactions. That's the kind of money you can make if you don't have a job and all day you're out just hunting for someone to take advantage of. The judge read the court's charge to you, and we talk about burglary and robbery. Don't get hung up on that. Don't get caught up in, well, some of us think it was burglary, some of us think it was robbery. We talked about in jury selection that 6 of you can believe it was a killing in the course of burglary. 6 can believe it's the killing in the course of robbery. Still guilty either way. Okay? More likely, all 12 of you will believe it was burglary and robbery. That's okay too. But we know what it's not is theft. We're not here for a theft case where he just happened to receive some stolen goods. Well, it was just a coincidence. Just every time Billy ends up having somebody's jewelry, someone else killed somebody and they sold it to him. That's great if the defense wants to get up here and argue that, but I will submit to you there is no piece of evidence that proves that at all. There is no piece of evidence that shows he just has the property and he was never connected to those people. Remember those boards we had this morning and the pictures start going up? And it says, okay, well, his phone says he was here. Well, now we have a video of him there. His phone says he was over at Dallas Gold Exchange. Well, we have the receipt showing he was there. All that goes to show that that evidence is credible. That path and that pattern is shown, that every time he finds a victim, he finds someone that if someone finds her dead, they're just going to think, well, she was 87. Things like that happen. Maybe she fell. Maybe her heart gave out. But then it's just like clockwork for him. Kill the person, attack the person, immediately they'll try to turn that over for a little bit of money. You're going to hear a ton about beyond a reasonable doubt, beyond a reasonable doubt. We have given you more than that. We have given you beyond all doubt. We have given you an investigation that spanned Richardson, Plano, and Dallas, that was detailed down to the people involved in the transactions with Billy Chemirmir, down to the people who recognized the jewelry of their relative to say, yes, this belonged to her. This was important to her. She wasn't going to give it away. She wasn't going to lose it. I mean, you heard about Mary Brooks keeping her stuff in a safe, and the whole safe was gone. You heard it was important to them, and that it was part of their legacy. He took that away because of what I said earlier, because of greed. That his greed was more important than their lives. We're going to ask that you go back, if you need to, look at the court's charge, but I submit there's nothing in there that should give you any trouble, because all of that court's charge says is this: if you believe he took Miss Lou Harris's life in the course of taking her stuff, then he's guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. We ask that you go back there and you deliberate, you work together, and you come back with a quick verdict that says, we know you're guilty. We know you picked her out. We know that her property was more important to you than her life. And you won't be telling the defendant anything he doesn't already know. We look forward to your verdict.
Thank you.